Welcome back to Metropole Business Center. Now, since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen more and more people leaning towards media and digital entertainment to cope during these uncertain times. Now, MyMoviesAfrica, a Kenyan-made mobile-fast digital cinema extension, is taking advantage of this desire for quality content by offering securely encrypted original movies. And we're talking about new releases, classics, features, short films, animations, documentaries, you name it. They're offering all this on your smartphone devices, including phones, tablets and laptops, via the internet across the whole continent of Africa and also to its diaspora. And this is done through a 7-day rental, which is an own for 7-day rental, as well as an own for life policy, which is got through purchase agreement. Joining me on the show today to discuss the streaming platform and the value it's offering to audiences as well as the cinema industry in the country is none other than Mike Strano, and he's the co-founder and business plus regulatory director at MyMoviesAfrica. I'm so happy to have you on the show, Mike.
Nice to be here, Ingrid. Thank you.
So MyMovies.Africa, I'm so intrigued. I'd like to hear all about your platform, so just take us through it.
Yeah, so as you said in the intro, so we're available on mobile devices via our website, MyMovies.Africa, and also an Android app. And we basically make movies available on demand. So we call ourselves a digital cinema extension because right after cinema is when movies come to us. So an African movie may release in cinema about a month after it's on our platform, sometimes even simultaneously. We have a new movie at the moment called Makami, about a young schoolgirl who uses chess to uplift herself out of poverty, essentially. Really great story, and it released last Friday in cinema and on our platform. So that one is since it's a premium new release, that one is for a 48-hour rental. The older titles are for a 7-day rental. And the best thing about our site as well, if you really love movies and you like to collect them, like so many people do, you can own it and you can watch it as many times as you like. Yeah.
So Mike, with that being said, and to really just understand exactly it is what you do, where did you feel there was a gap in the market? And as MyMoviesAfrica, where do you fit in?
Yeah. So first and foremost, if you actually look at the number of cinema screens across the continent, they're around about 1,000. In the US, there are 40,000. So the population per screen in the US is 8,000 people. In Africa, it's 800,000 people. So actually there's 1,600 screens now. So there's a big gap, there's a big gap in the market for people who want to go to cinema, and then also all of us, those of us who do go to cinema, you know, it's probably 4 times a year is what we would do, and there are like 200 new releases every year. So those are a lot of movies that people don't get to see, so we decided to deliver it to people's phones instead, yeah.
And just to help us better understand also your product, I would like you to help us paint a picture of the consumption habits of Kenyans, or maybe even the continent, in terms of entertainment, in terms of, you know, movies like you're talking about. Talk to us about the consumption patterns and how this has also informed your product and making sure that it fits directly into the consumption habits of the audiences.
Yeah, so what we've seen, so we've been in the market for the last 2 years now. So what we've seen is that we offer a different offering to what's there. If you look at us, the difference between us and subscription video on demand, we are called transactional video on demand, TVOD. The other ones are where you pay a monthly fee, that's called subscription, so that's SVOD. So if you actually look at our platforms in the context of the previous or the linear options, so we are like a cinema, okay? SVODs like Netflix and Showmax are like pay TV. YouTube is like free to air. Okay, so that's the digital equivalent of the analog versions before, yeah? And that's where the market is shifting to in terms of everything's digital and everything is on demand. So we offer those who can't make it to cinema an option to watch movies, and also our model is a pay-as-you-go. This market really has it. Africa generally, if you look at how Africa consumes airtime, for example, very few of us are on a monthly subscription package. We usually pay as we go. So we fit into that consumer that wants to pay for content as they go, when they're able to and when they have the time. Yeah.
So Mike, just to dwell on that thought a little bit, and also because you've mentioned that your model is slightly different from what's out there.
Yes.
However, would you still say those are still your competitors? And by this question, I'm trying to talk about the competition in your space. What does that look like? And we're seeing a heavy influx of kind of similar, maybe not the same exact model of such platforms, crop up globally, even in the region. So in terms of competition, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that and how you're weathering it.
Yeah, our biggest competition is actually piracy. It's actually illegal content, and that's the biggest competition for the entire sector. Right. So piracy takes about 95 to 99% of the revenue out of the sector. So the other platforms are not our competition at the moment. We're all working together, even though we may not collaborate. We're all working together to make impact. The total percentage of penetration of video on demand or subscription video on demand in Africa at the moment is 1%. That's it. Wow. So it's a huge untapped market. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's enough for everybody.
Oh, so even with that reality of there's really, really such a big pie from everyone to eat from.
Yeah.
Would you say then it's a clean business whereby if you go in it, it's going to work? Or just like any other business that's plagued with challenges, what would you say are some of the bottlenecks, some of the things that are hindering, you fully getting into this, if at all, if there are any?
Yeah, no, there are a lot. I mean, we're an entertainment technology company. So we don't just deal in content, we own our own technology as well. So it's taken us 3-4 years to get to where we are in terms of development, and with a lot of learnings along the way, to also deliver a service is at the same quality of what's already out there in terms of technical delivery. And every day our technical department's still growing, and every day we're adding new features, and every week. So that's one of the things. It's a heavy investment in terms of technical development. The other challenge as well is just to also find your niche and find who your market is. We've spent the last 2 years understanding who our customer is. At least for this service, we are looking at other services as well, to roll out to other different segments and other different VODs. So like any business, as you say, there are a lot of challenges, but we've weathered that storm. This is a company, myself and the directors have bootstrapped this startup from our other businesses from day one. And now we're getting to the stage of raising finance to scale the operation across the continent. Yeah.
Amazing. So I'd like to hear about policy and regulation, because there's obviously a lot of amazing background work that's going into it, even if we're talking about the size of investment, and if we're talking about trying to tailor a product that fits into the market. But we all know that you can have a brilliant concept or product, but if the regulation or policy isn't right, somehow there'll be an effect. Yeah. So I'd like to talk about the environment within which you operate. What do the policies look like? Are they fitting, or is there some tweaking that needs to be done to make sure that you're comfortable and they're enabling? What would you say on that? Yeah,
so I think two things. One is piracy, and the second is the startup environment as well. So on piracy, for the entire creative industry, I convene a coalition called Partners Against Piracy. In that coalition, we have organizations like MultiChoice, Mudundu, Boomplay, Soul Generation, any creative organization that deals in any of the creative content online. We recently did a study. It was pretty much a dipstick, but based on PwC data and interviews with industry stakeholders, we estimate as Partners Against Piracy that the creative industry of Kenya is losing 92 billion per year. Yeah, and the legitimate industry is about 70 billion. So there's a lot of revenue, and that's across all digital content. I'm happy to share that statement with you. The reason why we did this study is that currently we have a very good law in Kenya. It was assented in 2019 October, and it's a game-changing law across the continent. What the law says is that any internet service provider must block a customer's access to pirated content. And when that happens, so when we as distributors or owners of content identify a platform that's pirating content, when that happens, your consumer will not change their consumption habits. They'll still want to consume content, but now they have an option of paying for it or using an ad-supported service, but basically using a service, be it subscription, ad-supported, or our service, where you rent it or own it, and the revenue goes back to the creative. At the moment, 99% of the revenue is lost. And that's totaling to 92 billion. And that's movies, that's TV content, that's animation, that's music, podcasts, gaming, even down to the traditional media itself. Piracy is having a toll, because your consumer has so much free illegal content out there. And the other thing consumers don't know is that there's nothing in this life. A lot of the organizations behind this pirated content are organized criminals. So as you're downloading that pirated content, there's a malware that goes into your device and is stealing your data. That's how we get cases of fraud. That's how we get cases of identity theft. There's also ransomware. We've had cases where people have to pay a ransom to get their data back because they downloaded content. And these cases are happening in Kenya. These organized criminal syndicates as well all around the world are also involved in other crimes like drug trafficking, human trafficking, what have you. So piracy is also funding a lot of illegal operations. So as PAP, we're trying to not only get hold of piracy in terms of compensating the creative, but also to protect Kenya as well as a nation. The second policy is startup. There's a lot of talk about startup policies in Kenya, and Kenya being a startup environment. But if you actually look to other countries, even places like Rwanda, Morocco, Mauritius, they have much better startup policies, enabling policies in terms of tax concessions, for example, more enabling environments for startups. So I think Kenya could be doing a lot better there, and there's a lot to offer. Kenyan startups are world renowned, even though the enabling environment could be better. Yeah.
And I'm so glad you're being candid about this, because you're bringing out certain aspects that we literally ignore. Because some of us get excited about, downloading illegal movies, but you don't really think about the long-term effect. That has given me a wake-up call.
Yes.
But just to stay with your line of thought, where you actually put damning figures of 92 billion losses to the creative industry. A lot of times we see these people come up, in protest over the challenges they have, but you really don't know what's on the ground until you just put a figure to that. Now, to stay with that, in terms of stakeholders, right, that you're working with, I mean, we obviously have seen the value you're offering the audience. How are you working with the different stakeholders? And here we could talk about the creative industry. Is there anything proactive you're doing to make sure that, they also benefit from this, or are there plans in line with this? Where's the role of MyMoviesAfrica and the stakeholders involved in what you're doing?
So MyMoviesAfrica is actually our first service. Our company is we've just rebranded. Our company name is called Yakwetu, which in Kiswahili is really nice because it means two things. It means of us, and also means for us. So that's what we're going out into the marketplace, and our values are around basically uplifting the creative industry of Kenya and Africa. And then there's also a new narrative. There's a very positive narrative coming out of Africa at the moment, which we want to take globally through our platform and through all types of digital media. Movies is just our first stop. So one thing we're doing is that we do revenue share with, our model is different, where we license content. A lot of other platforms acquire content, and we also believe there's a lot of power in words, right? So when you use the word acquire, it means I own it. I can do whatever I like, and that's not how we work with our partners. Our content partners are our partners, so we revenue share with them. So we license content, we don't acquire. We are also, when we become profitable, we've also committed to 10% of profit before tax going into a co-production fund. So what a co-production will do is that we will begin investing in content and mainly looking at our catalog, looking at the market, and looking at where the gaps are. And the biggest gaps at the moment in Africa for content is family content. There's not enough children's content. That's why the children of Africa are very affected by globalization, because there's very little that belongs to them, be it animation or be it live action. So that's something that we would really like to invest in, so that these kids can grow up being proud Africans at the end of the day, and having something to talk about and tell the world about. So that's how we're working with our content partners.
Great. Now, Mike, we all know, and I said it in my intro, COVID has amplified the nature of what you do. There's a lot more demand.
Yes.
So how have you innovated, adjusted in line with the current realities? And maybe how has that also changed how you do things as opposed to how you would have done them before COVID?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So it definitely increased interest in our service and increased our customer numbers and our transactions. But there again, it also increased consumption of pirated content, which we've also talked about. So you know, once we clean up that environment, as we are with our other stakeholders, all the platforms and all the creators will be doing a lot better. In terms of innovation, the whole webinar wave and the Zoom wave that we saw early on, so we've now done a plug-in with Zoom where we do watch parties. So our watch parties are via Zoom, and then so maybe we have one coming up in March for this new Mokami film, and we'll show the film via Zoom. We'll also, if you join us via Zoom, we'll also give you a free rental, because we know sometimes the link can drop out, so we want to make sure the customer is happy. Then after the screening, we do a Q&A with the cast and crew. So you get to meet the cast and crew virtually, and then you get, ask them anything about the movie. So that's some value add that we're doing for both our content partners and the consumers. So that was born out of not being able to do live screenings and live events. And then our marketing, pre-COVID, we're doing some on-ground activations. Now we've had to take everything online. So we've increased our social media marketing. We were recently accepted into the Google Digital Launchpad program as well, to improve our skills on digital marketing. So everything has gone online. We've gone online like everyone else, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, before I let you go, even as we sum up, before my director kills me, I'd like to hear, you mentioned that movies are just the first step, right?
Yeah.
What else should we expect going forward for MyMovies.Africa, or should I call it Yakwetu? Like,
Yakwetu.
What else do you have in store for us? What should we be excited about?
Yeah, we want to address all the so in our logo we've actually put our ambitions and our journey of our ambition. So the first is films. Next will be television content, because a lot of our content partners also have that. Following that will be music. Prior to this, I did 20 years in the music industry, so I've love of the music industry. We want to do VR as well. VR is a growing industry, and being mobile first on phone, it's easy to deliver. Podcasts are growing, so we want to get into podcasts later, as well as audiobooks, and finally games. So anything digital content that's out there right now, including the whole NFT movement with blockchain, that's where we're intending to go.
That's so amazing, and I honestly wish you the best. I hope
Thank
even
you.
as you go on to expand and diversify, you'll take us along on the journey, because I would
Absolutely.
like to cover the follow-up stories and just see how it all unfolds. I wish you all the best.
Absolutely, thank you.
So unfortunately, that's all the time we had for you today on the show. But remember, we'll have a repeat of this show at 3 p.m. and as well as you can catch the repeat on our YouTube channels. But also you can send your feedback and comments to our social media handles at Metropole TV KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Enjoy the rest of your shows.